Howdy all, welcome to a new Dune Awakening video. I'm not going to call this part 38 because I'm not going to be doing a playthrough in this particular video. I'm not going to be doing any contracts or missions or journeys or anything like that. Now, the reason I'm not doing that is because one, we've got something coming up that's very important, that's going to be very impactful to the player base here. And two, I need to go on a rant, which is related to what is coming up here. And if you may notice, this is not my normal character. This is not my playthrough character. I have a number of characters in this game. This one, Angrid, is roughly the same level as my playthrough character. I've advanced slightly beyond my regular playthrough character. I've gone through the final trial of Akal, so I know how to make the Fremen death stills, and I've got a couple of them right there. But otherwise, almost exactly the same character level and the level of knowledge, and in the same area. In fact, almost exactly the same spot. I've got a base here that is in the eastern shield wall area. And pretty similar to the base that my main playthrough character uses. So, this character is on the server Tartarus, and recently underwent a transfer from the server that I was originally on with this character, Odin. The reason I did that well, let's put it this way. Let's start talking about what's coming up. All right, so Funcom has decided that very soon, probably within a month or so, they will be doing what they're calling server mergers. They will be shutting down lower population servers to reduce the number of servers that are out there, to make the fewer servers that are left have higher populations, which would be better for character interaction, for the Chom exchange marketplace, and so on. Now, technically, it's not really a server migration, because if it was a server migration, what they would do is you would have low population server A and higher population server B, and every character on server A would just be moved to server B. There would be a migration completely from one server as one server was merged with another, or server merger, I guess is what they really call it. And technically, what they're doing here is that they are identifying within a few days. So I'm recording this right now on Thursday, March 5th, and they have not yet said which servers will be shut down. But they did say in a recent developer update post that it will happen in early March, that the start of the identification of the servers that will be shut down will happen in early March. So I'm expecting it any day now. And realistically, this server is definitely going to be one of them. This has one of the lowest populations of any of the servers in the game, and I picked it deliberately for that. So what they will actually be doing is instead identifying these servers that will be shutting down, and then any character on those servers will be allowed to transfer to any higher population server they choose. So it's a lot more like an eviction with paid relocation services, as opposed to an actual server merger or migration. But anyway, this is coming up fairly soon. In advance of that, I went ahead and did a character transfer, as I mentioned, with this character. Oh, and that just got dark. I guess I'm not going to get any better light unless I step outside, maybe? Yep, then I'm going to start losing all the heat, or losing all my moisture. Anyway. Heck with it, we'll go back in here. Stand in front of the lights. There we go. So, this character had been in this Eastern Shield Wall area on the Odin server for, I don't know, a couple of weeks, I guess. And at one point, I was driving my buggy, which you can see behind me, around mining either aluminum or fuel cells. I can't remember which. Riding around You see it. That big mountain there in front of me in the distance, the one where you can see Southern Comms base hanging out off the front of it. Um, that is a huge, not very tall, like compared to the Sentinel, Godzilla there. That is a huge mountain. It's very broad, and so there's all sorts of stuff all around it. And there are pathways and roads and so on that you can go around and get all sorts of goodies. So I was, get back here, there we go, driving around with my buggy, mining something. I came around the back side of this and over here to the western side where there is a wreck, the wreck of the Limos. And as I was driving by the wreck, I had noticed that down here at the beginning of this slope, somebody had a base, a fairly sizable Harkonnen material base. And as I was driving past the wreck, somebody started shooting at me. I was nowhere near, there's a sandflies camp near there, and certainly not near enough the wreck to catch the attention of anybody in the wreck. So I looked around while I continued driving, and there was a player trying to kill me, apparently thinking I was close enough to the wreck that I was in the PvP zone. And it turns out I wasn't, or if I was, it was just for a very short distance. Player realized that he couldn't kill me, so then he tried using his fast traversal and suspensor belt mechanics to land on my buggy. That didn't work. I just kept running along. And finally, I mean, I thought he was done, and then a few seconds later, he comes back with his scout ornithopter and starts landing on the front of my buggy, trying to get me to not be able to move forward at all. And he does. It took him a while. I was able to avoid him for quite a while, and he was pretty insistent. And finally, he did. And once he did, he typed in general open chat, lol, got you, and then flew off. So I just kept driving. I didn't respond to him. I firmly believe that people who do negative behavior is looking for negative attention, and so I'm not going to ever give them attention. So I drove back to my base, and frankly, I thought long and hard about just ditching this character. Ultimately, I decided, as I mentioned, to do a character transfer, but I was so disgusted with that behavior that I almost thought it wasn't worth continuing to play this character at all. And that gets to my rant. How do players in a multiplayer game get enjoyment out of interfering with the enjoyment of the game for other players? I don't get that. I really just, I don't understand the brain that thinks that that's fun. I mean, I can come up with all sorts of justifications or reasoning. Was that player 13 years old? Probably. Or mentally 13 years old? Emotionally 13 years old? Probably. I don't know for sure, obviously, because I'm never going to interact with them. I immediately block them. They can't communicate with me in any fashion whatsoever anymore. And then I transferred to a completely different server. I have, and I'm going to show you here in a bit, a couple of other examples of some of this behavior that just absolutely blows my mind. And to do that, I have to take you to different characters. While I was trying to decide whether or not I was going to just ditch this character or do a transfer, I did start another character. I wanted to have some playthrough time. This is my default play time, fun time character when I'm not doing the actual video playthroughs. And I don't do that character on the playthroughs for fun playtime because it would advance me past being able to show you any of the playthroughs. but I didn't know if I wanted to keep this character, so I decided to start one more, and then since then I've started a second new character for reasons I'll get into. So I'm going to cut here, and I will come back when I am with a different character to show you something else that I just don't understand. So see you in a bit. Welcome back, folks. This is the first of the two newer characters that I created, although it's kind of hard to say. The hairstyle is almost identical and the face is pretty similar. I guess it's more of an orange hair, and it's a different uniform or different still suit look anyway. This is a different character. The character is also only level 28. So I played this character again, like I said, while I was deciding on whether or not I was going to make the transfer with my main fun play character, and advanced the character up to the point where I was going to, where I had moved up to the Vermilius Gap for the first time and was building my advanced sub thief base. And I discovered that even on this, and again, I picked this server because it was fairly low population. Even on this server, you know what? I think it's going to work better if I use a bike. There we go. Even on this server, there are things I just don't get. And I'll start with the one that's easiest to show. Out here, outside the anvil, you know, the second trade post you get to, somebody built a base right here that completely blocks vehicle passage through this particular way to get to the anvil. Oh, you know what? I might be able to sneak around there. Okay, let's see if I can get there. Okay, they didn't completely block it. You can sneak around it with a bike. So you could walk around it, and I guess you can slowly bike around it. You can't get a buggy through it. Why? There are now 3 bases around here. That one, my base, and I'll show you the other one that just absolutely blows my mind. So all of the space around the anvil is completely open for anybody to build a base anywhere they want. Why would you deliberately block passage through one of the primary pathways around the trade post unless your goal is to be a dick? I mean, I just, again, I don't get it. That's not the worst one. There are 2 of them, and you can now see it behind my base. And you're going to start seeing the effect of it. That gigantic Harkonnen, I'm sorry, there are 4 bases. There's one there that had been abandoned and is falling apart. This gigantic Harkonnen base is so big that it will start slowing down my frame rate. It completely blocks this back passage to get into the backside, except they generously, I guess, made this little pathway so you can actually ride through it, again, with a bike, or you can run through it. You can't take a buggy through there. So there's absolutely no way to get a buggy from my base over to this side of the backside of the massive that the trade post is on, the anvil trade post is on, without driving all the way around those 2 large outcrops. Look at the size of this thing. It's insane. And again, why would you do this? Why would you completely fill up the valley that provides access from the east side of the trade post to the back side of the trade post? Again, unless your goal is deliberately to be somebody who gets in the way of the enjoyable playthrough of the game for other players. And again, clearly that's got to be the only reason for doing this. Nobody has any in-world uh, value explanation for doing that there as opposed to any other location on the map around the trade post or making it that big, frankly. Again, I don't get it. I absolutely do not understand that kind of thinking. I had to put a light over here so you could see my character's face. There we go. I don't get it. Now, I'm sure somebody in the comments is going to either explain to me or lol, get good or whatever. Now, this isn't about being good at the game. It's about whether or not the way you play the game is to be a dick to other people. Now, and if you do, then you're a dick. I mean, there's no other way to describe the kind of person who wants to do things like that. Oh. And if that's who you are, if that's the way you play the game, I honestly, at an objective level, I have to say, I cannot tell you clearly how to play a game, how you should properly enjoy a game. But I gotta say, if your enjoyment of the game is, I want to be as big a dick as possible, you know, you're a dick. I've got one more example of this to show you, and this just blew my mind. So I'm going to cut here, come back to my very newest character. And again, I can't. So here's how this ties in still to the server quote unquote migrations and the character transfers and so on. I can't transfer this character to another server for another I think it's 5 days, because it was 2 days ago that I did the transfer of my main fun play character to Tartarus. And both the character transfer tokens are on an account wide 7 day countdown timer, and the base reconstruction tool, which I would need to back up my entire base to take it with me, because I'm not going to abandon it, um, countdown timer is on an account wide timer. And Funcom, if you're watching this, please change that. That's stupid. It makes no sense. The tool has to be made for each individual character. The tokens are used by each individual character. There's no reason whatsoever, unless it's an internal issue about how complex and challenging it is for the servers to support a change that will happen um, in 3 or 4 characters per account all within 1 day or something. But I cannot see any reason why you would time gate this account wide when every usage of it has to be per individual character. It should be timed per character. But anyway, I'm going to cut here, and I'll come back with a different character and show you another just absolutely mind-boggling example. So see you in a bit. All right, folks, welcome back. This is the newest character, and as you can see, I finally decided to actually, change a face, do some of the actual work for the character customization that's available to me. And as you might be able to tell from the size of it, this is a regular sub-fief. I'm still in Haga Basin South. There you go. You can see just outside of the Griffin's Reach trade post. And I created this character, like I said, again, because I wasn't entirely sure. Let's find some place where I can get some sunlight, sort of. All right. I wasn't entirely sure whether or not I wanted to play that other newer character for any longer until I could do a character transfer to get away from that giant Harkonnen base. I mean, I guess I could relocate my base, but even then, I have the countdown to the base reconstruction tool, so I can't actually just relocate the base. I'd have to completely rebuild it somewhere else. And frankly, I like being on the east side of the anvil because so much of what the character does involves going over either into Haga Rift or into that area. Um, so little of it actually involves, until later on, going over into the western Vermilius Gap, so there's no point in building a base on the west side. But anyway, so I created this character. I said, all right, I'm going to try, creating a new look, and go ahead and just do another playthrough. So I made it up to, and this character is, by the way, level 18. So I made it up to level 18. Actually, that's not the one I want to go. The path I want to go down. I want to go down this one up here. And at level, 11 or 12 or whatever, when you have to build your base, I did what I always do is I come up to the Griffin's Reach trade post area so I can actually build a base. Let me stop burning in the sun here. Next to the trade post and next to where all of the contracts and missions originate from. And so I was running around doing basic, I think, gathering granite so I could build the base. And I came down around this way. And look, somebody at a high enough level to build pentashields for ornithopters built a gigantic base in Haga Basin South. None, like, look at all of those wind turbines. None of the material you need to keep those things running can be found here in Haga Basin South. Why is this base here? And it is completely blocking this backside of the massive that holds the Griffin's Reach trade post. If you want to come around the south side of Griffin's Reach, you have to go all the way out around the Dew Gap Gateway if you're on a vehicle. Again, in this case, I could probably sneak a sand bike through here, and you can run through here. You couldn't take a buggy, and at this level, you're probably not going to be having a buggy down here anyway. But I mean, just look at the size of this thing. Kind of don't get why you have a door off the side there, but it blows my mind that somebody thought it was fun to completely block this entire passageway. I mean, just look at this. That is a carrier ornithopter, right? Assuming I can't go in there. Yeah. This is an end game level base, or pretty darn close to it. Sitting in Haga Basin South, blocking this entire passageway. I do not at all understand the thinking of why somebody believes that that is a good idea. So I'm not going to run all the way back to my base to finish this out, that's pretty much the end of my rant. God, I wish I could stand in some better light where I'm not going to get cooked, but or shot at, I think. Yeah, there's a. All right, let me see if I can find a better spot to stand so I can finish out this rant. All right, get out of the sun and then get into a little bit of sun, which is moving because a little bit more sun. There we go. All right, so the server migrations are going to happen pretty soon, and that means I'm going to have to get into a server with a higher population. Does that mean I'm going to run across more of people like the guy who built that giant base behind me? I don't know. It depends on the server. I'm going to say, based on the sample, like when I moved to this server, when I created the character on this server, I went to an actual server account website for Dune Awakening, and there were two out of all 30 sietches. There were two players out of the 1,000 that are available for any given world. When you think about that, the odds that when my characters wind up getting transferred to a higher population server, I'm going to run across a lot more, there's no other word for it, dicks like the dick that built that base, or the dick that built the bases on the other character's server, or the dick that decided to try to, stop me while I was riding around just mining resources, minding my own business. Yeah, I'm probably going to run into a lot more of those. What does that mean for my enjoyment of this game going forward? I don't know. I'll have to find out. I'll have to see, is the advantage of having lower prices and more options of things on the Chom Exchange to buy worth having to deal with more and more pant stains trying to land their ornithopter on my buggy when I'm just driving around, or blocking every passageway? I mean, can you imagine this kind of attitude when the server population is hundreds? Will there be any way to get around a trade post? Anyway, this is sort of doom thinking speculation. I don't know until I get to my ultimate destination for where I'll wind up when these servers do get shut down and I have to transfer my characters. But I'm a little apprehensive. And on that note, thank you for listening to me rant and whine about people in multiplayer games being dicks. And again, if you have any idea why this happens, please put it down in the comments below. Let me know your opinion of this kind of play style for people. And to what extent, are you upset with this when you run across it, or is it just part of the cost of playing a game like this? That said, thank you all for joining me on this not actual playthrough video, this much shorter video, and listening to me rant and whine. If you like this video, I don't know if you would, please do click on the like button. If you didn't like it, click on that dislike button. If you have any other questions other than the comments I've asked for, or any other comments, please do put them in the comment section below. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel and you like the stuff that we put up here, please do consider subscribing to Nerd Caliber, and maybe clicking the notification bell icon so you get notified when this stuff goes up, or better stuff than this. And on that note, folks, thank you very much for joining me. Stay safe, be well, and bye-bye.